Hi everyone, this is Priscilla. Genova Johnson Dollinger was born on April 20, 1913, in Kalamazoo, Michigan. She had a plucky, courageous personality that enabled her to achieve her goals. As she became aware of the despicable working conditions in factories like General Motors, which was in her hometown of Flint, Michigan, she decided to fight against it. Although the country was paralyzed by the Great Depression, a fire burned strongly in the hearts of strong-minded resistors like Genova, who wouldn't stop fighting until they tasted victory. At 16, she became a member of the Socialist Party, and at 23, she was an active participant in meetings where she spearheaded plans to carry out strikes. In a time when women were just starting to fight for equality between males and females, Genova was part of a movement that took it one step further, to fight for equality between workers and their taskmasters. The Socialist Party became so popular that it was second only to the Communist Party, and it even has its own newspaper, the Socialist Call. It took 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears to finally create a union within General Motors in Flint, Michigan. General Motors immediately created its alternative named the Flint Alliance. Both organizations published newspapers that tried to persuade workers to join their unions. Those who did not sign up for the Flint Alliance were beaten severely, yet they battled on. Picket lines and soup kitchens were created, and the first sit-down strike occurred, when workers literally refused to work and sat down on the job. Genova helped integrate the women's role in picketing, along with organizing a child care center to make this possible for young mothers. General Motors fought back with starvation measures and then bone-chilling cold temperatures. Still, strikers pressed on. Company police fired off tear gas and then bullets. Genova accused the police of being cowards through a loudspeaker, then encouraged the women to step forward and protect their men. The police ceased fire as women flooded the streets. This dramatic event would later be coined the Battle of Bull's Run. Genova would go on to help create several organizations, including the Women's Auxiliary and the Emergency Brigade, which she was captain of. Confidence grew in the workers, and the strikes were a success, resulting in better wages and conditions, peace agreements, and finally, signed labor contracts. Genova was an important figure because she dedicated her life to her beliefs and did not let anything stand in her way, even when her very life was at risk of being threatened. So I've chosen to read her speech, which is called The Sit-Down Strike at Flint. Genova Johnson Dollinger. They used to say, once you pass the gates of General Motors, forget about the United States Constitution. Workers had no rights when they entered the plant. If a foreman didn't like the way you parted your hair, or whatever he didn't like about you, he could fire you. No recourse, not nothing. After the first sit-down started, I went down to see what I could do to help. They said, go to the kitchen. We need a lot of help there. They didn't know what else to tell women to do. I said, you've got a lot of little skinny men around here who can't stand to be out in the cold picket line for very long. They can peel potatoes as well as any woman can. Instead, I organized a children's picket line. The picture of my 2-year-old son, Jarvis, holding a picket sign saying, my daddy strikes for us little tykes, went all over the nation. The next day, we decided to organize the women. We thought that if women can be that effective in breaking a strike, they could be just as effective in helping to win it. I thought, the women can break this up, so I appealed to the women in the crowd. Break through those police lines. In the dusk, I could barely see one woman struggling to come forward. A cop had grabbed her by the back of her coat. She just pulled out of the coat and started walking down to the battle zone. As soon as that happened, there were other women and men who followed. The police wouldn't shoot people in the back as they were coming down. So that was the end of the battle. When those spectators came into the center of the battle and the police retreated, there was a big roar of victory. That battle became known as the Battle of Bull's Run because we made the cops run. We didn't know that nothing like that had ever been organized before, at least not in this country. We didn't know we were making history. We didn't have time to think about it. After we sat down in Flint, which was the heart of the General Motors production empire, 15 GM plants across the country went on strike, and the news went out about the role women could play. Following the strike, the auto worker became a different human being. So that was her speech, which I thought was very powerful, and after finding out more about her, I could understand where she's coming from. So overall, I really enjoyed this week's assignment, and I hope that all you guys did too, and I look forward to watching your speeches.